Hello, government students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have got notes for Chapter 3, Section 3, Amending and Ratifying the Constitution. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to propose and ratify amendments, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the informal ways that you can interpret or change the Constitution. So as we go along, you're going to need your guided notes, and you're going to need to fill in the information that you see in this video. We're going to talk first about proposing amendments, and I think the key here is to understand the fractions. To propose an amendment, you're going to need at least a 2/3 vote. Okay, if you can remember 2/3, it kind of should go along or be synonymous with proposing an amendment. And this can be done a couple different ways. And if you want to follow along in your books, page 77 has a little diagram that kind of talks a little bit about this. But you can have 2/3 vote of each House of Congress. And so if you're talking about the Senate, you're going to need at least 67 votes, or the House of Representatives, you're going to need at least 290. This way they can propose that amendment, and it could be about any subject from balancing the budget to talking about equality as far as civil rights are concerned. Okay. Another way to do it is to have a national convention called by the Congress on the request of 20 or 2/3 of all the states. So that would be 33 states around the union calling for this, and then Congress would have a convention to propose an amendment on the behalf of these states. Okay, once an amendment is proposed, then to ratify it, to get it added to the Constitution, requires a different fraction. And just so you understand, we've had probably maybe 200, maybe 300 different proposed amendments in the history of our country under the Constitution. Okay, not every amendment makes the cut, and part of that is because of the ratifying process. To get something ratified, you need 3/4 of the states to agree to this. So you can have the legislatures and roughly 3/4 of the states ratifying the amendment. That would be roughly 38 states. Or each state can call a special ratifying convention, and the amendment occurs when there are 3/4 of these conventions that approve it. Again, another 38 states. And typically what you're going to find is if we go to convention, you might find that some of these amendments are going to be put before the voters. And so you and I would have an opportunity to vote on this, most likely in a general election. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the bottom of your sheet, talking a little bit about the informal ways that you can change the interpretation of the Constitution. And in addition to the formal methods of proposing and ratifying, things can be done informally. And some of that can occur because of different leaders in government or because of the citizens demanding some kind of change. And this may vary from year to year or day to day. Okay, the Constitution or Congress has passed laws that over the years have enlarged or clarified many of the Constitution's provisions. One of the things that we have seen in the past that I don't think our founding fathers ever really thought would be an issue is the concern about presidential succession. And this came as a result of the death of William Henry Harrison back in the 1820s. He became president, only was president for roughly a month, got sick as a result of giving a very long inaugural address out in the rain. And when he dies, there's a question about who should become president. Well, John Tyler happened to be his vice president, and he was called upon to assume the office of the presidency. But as a result of that, there was really a vacancy for the vice president. And over the years, we needed to kind of redefine who would fill that position. And one of the things that we have seen as a result of maybe amendments added to the Constitution is kind of clarifying the batting order. So we know that it goes president, vice president, but the question is who's in the third position. And for a time it was Secretary of State, but today it's actually Speaker of the House. And so that would at least give you a little depth as far as who would assume the office of the presidency. All right. Speaking of the Supreme Court, one of the most important tools that the court uses when it comes to interpreting the Constitution is this thing called judicial review. And part of this goes back to a case called Marbury versus Madison that really actually kind of established the principle of judicial review. It allows the Supreme Court to be kind of the last check on the laws that Congress writes and the president signs into law. Okay, over the years, the court has had kind of a different makeup. There have been times that the court has been very active in shaping national policy, and then there's times that they're not. Those who believe that the court should take an active role might believe in this concept of judicial activism. And a great example of that would have been the Supreme Court under Chief Justice um, Warren, and that would have been back in the late 1950s, early 1960s. In contrast, those who think that the court should avoid taking an initiative on social and political questions believe in this concept of judicial restraint. And what they're saying is that when Congress and the president kind of work together to get the laws onto the book, that the court itself shouldn't necessarily be trying to become, the maker of social policy. Okay, it's the courts and it's the court to uphold what is established. So those are your notes for today. Thank you.